How to lose belly fat is one of the most Googled questions in the world, and that's because it's really easy to gain, but notoriously hard to lose. No matter what exercises you try and no matter how well you eat, the belly fat just won't budge. But there's an exercise that is incredibly underutilized and often brushed over, and it's extremely powerful and effective when it comes to losing even the most stubborn belly fat. So today I'm going to share what it is and how you can use it right now to start losing belly fat today. And in case you're new to my channel and you're wondering who the heck I am and why you should listen to me, my name's Doug and I've spent the last 6 years helping thousands of men to lose weight, burn their belly fat, and keep it off for good, without crazy diets or extreme exercise routines. Before we get into the number one exercise to lose belly fat, let's talk about why it's so stubborn in the first place. And trust me, I know about this struggle firsthand. You see, years ago when I was 50 pounds overweight, I was convinced that the only way to lose the belly fat was to run every day and completely starve myself. So I forced myself through these brutal cardio sessions, thinking that the harder I worked, the faster I'd lose my belly fat. At the same time, I was absolutely convinced that I had to cut out all carbs. I'd heard all these guys on YouTube saying that they got six-pack abs by eating pizza and pasta and chocolate, but frankly, I just didn't believe them. I didn't think that would work for me and that the secret must be living this miserable existence where I'm not eating any of the food that I enjoy. So I purposely cut out all the carbs, basically everything I enjoyed. Bread, pasta, pizza, chocolate, you name it. And sure, I lost some weight at first, but I was miserable. I was exhausted all the time. I had zero energy. Everything felt hard. My career suffered. I was irritable. I lost my drive down there, if you know what I mean, lads. And worst of all, my belly fat was still there. I'd lose a little, but then I'd burn out, I'd binge on food and gain it all back. I thought I was the problem, that I just didn't have enough discipline. But the truth was that I was following the wrong approach. You see, belly fat is stubborn because your body burns fat in a specific order, and that's based on your genetics. So you might lose fat from your face, from your arms or your legs first, but belly fat is usually the last to go. And no amount of daily cardio or cutting carbs will change that. You see, the only way to lose belly fat is by calculating something called your maintenance calorie number, and then putting yourself into a calorie deficit for long enough for your body to finally tap into that belly fat and use it as energy. The quick and dirty way to do this is just to multiply your body weight in pounds by 14. But if you want a more accurate calorie target that's specific to you, you can click the link under this video and use the free calorie calculator I've built. Most guys just skip over this and make the same mistake that I did. They get fixated on the extreme and try to speed up the process with these brutal cardio sessions and extreme diets. They think, okay, if I just burn more calories, I'll lose the fat faster. So they start hammering the cardio, whether it's running or cycling or rowing or HIIT, because it feels like they're doing something. And I get it. And technically, they're right. These exercises do burn a lot of calories in a short amount of time. For example, a 170-pound guy running at, let's say, 6 miles per hour for about 30 minutes will burn 360 calories. You do that 3 times a week for a year, and in theory, that adds up to about 16 pounds of fat loss. Sounds great, right? But here's the problem. The overwhelming majority of guys can't stick to that. It's easy to say, but in practice, it's much harder to do. You start off motivated in January, but then as we come out of winter and work starts to get busy and social occasions pick up and you get a little bit bored by the monotony of it all, your discipline starts to fade. Your legs are sore, your joints ache, you dread your workouts, and sooner or later, you quit. It's very easy for life to get in the way of your fitness routine and your diet if it doesn't work around your work, around your family, and around your social life. Even in studies where people are assigned cardio workouts, the dropout rates are still nearly 20%. And that's in a controlled setting where people are being told what to do. So if you're relying on intense cardio to lose belly fat, just ask yourself, can I really keep this up for the next 6 months, a year, for the rest of my life? Now, for most guys, the answer is obviously going to be no. And there's no shame in that. If you can't stick with it, it doesn't matter how effective it is on paper. So if extreme cardio isn't the answer, what is? What you want to do is pair a sustainable calorie deficit with an exercise that's easy to stick to for life. And that's exactly what I'm going to share with you next. So what's the number one exercise to lose belly fat? The one that's easy to stick to, doesn't completely destroy your energy, and actually works long term? Well, the answer is walking. Now, before you click off this video, I know what you're thinking. Walking? There's no way I can walk my way to a six-pack, Doug. What's wrong with you? And years ago, I would have said the exact same thing. I would have thought if I wasn't dripping with sweat after a workout or really struggling on my calories, that it just didn't count. But then I came across a study that completely changed my perspective. In 2021, researchers conducted what we call a meta-analysis, which is where they look at data from lots of studies. Now, in this case, they analyzed 54 studies comparing the different types of cardio for fat loss. And what they found was pretty shocking. You see, they discovered that low intensity, longer duration cardio, like walking, was just as effective as high intensity cardio when it came to losing fat. That means whether you burn 300 calories sprinting for 20 minutes or 300 calories walking for an hour, your body doesn't care. The fat loss result is the same. The only difference, walking doesn't leave you exhausted, sore, or burnt out. And if you think walking doesn't add up, let me show you some quick numbers. Let's take the same 170-pound guy from earlier. If he walks at a casual pace, say 3 miles per hour, he'll burn around 200 calories every hour. So if he walks just 3 hours a week, that's an extra 600 calories burned. Over a year, that adds up to 9 pounds of fat loss without doing anything extreme. That might not sound like much, but this right here is what 1 pound of fat looks like. So imagine losing 9 of these in the next year. And if he increases that to 10 or 15,000 steps a day, now we're talking about even greater fat loss and massive health benefits. In fact, if you walk 10,000 steps a day, that adds up to 70 marathons a year. Now, very few people want to run 70 marathons a year, but walking them over the course of a year, that's easy. You don't need to psych yourself up for a brutal workout. You don't need to sacrifice your joints or your energy. You can just walk, all while listening to a podcast, phoning a friend, or even spending time with your family. But it gets even better, because what you've probably never been told about walking is that it activates something called your parasympathetic nervous system. And this is the part of your nervous system which helps you to relax. Why is that important? Well, one of the other big causes of belly fat is something called cortisol, which is your stress hormone. You see, when you're stressed out, your cortisol level gets elevated. And when that happens, it can make it a heck of a lot harder for you to lose belly fat, even when you're in a calorie deficit. Now, getting outside, getting some fresh air, and if you're lucky, seeing some blue sky and some sunshine has such a powerful effect on your stress level and your mental health. And I'm sure if you think about it, you can think of a time when you've experienced this. You don't even need to be walking to activate it, to be honest with you. Just looking into the distance, getting yourself out of the day-to-day chaos, getting into nature, looking at the ocean, whatever you can do to change your perspective and change your brain chemistry. So even if you're skeptical about what I'm saying today, I'd still encourage you to take yourself for a walk after this video, even if it's just for 15 minutes, and then come back and leave a comment telling me that I'm completely wrong. And just to be clear, I'm not saying this is the only exercise you should do. I'm saying this is the number one. This is the best one for you to lose belly fat, because it's the easiest for you to stay consistent with over a long period of time. But on top of this, what 90% of my clients do is 3 30 to 45-minute full body workouts each week where they're lifting weights. But for fat loss that actually lasts, walking should be your main form of exercise. Now, at this point, you're probably thinking, all right, Doug, I get it. You sold me on walking, but how the heck do I actually fit this into my incredibly busy schedule? Well, the first step is figuring out how many steps you're currently taking, because most guys don't realize just how little they move during the day. And I get it. The busy job, the never-ending to-do list, the day flies by, and before you know it, you've been sat at your desk for 10 hours, hunched over like a T-Rex, and your step count is around 836. Well, the first thing we need to do is actually shine a light on this problem. Now, the good news is that every single smartphone these days comes with a built-in pedometer, a step counter. I mean, it's probably so that they can track us, but that's a conversation for another day. So open up your phone and check your health app on your iPhone or Google Fit if you're on Android. See how many steps you've been doing in the last week or so. Some of you might already be getting a decent amount of movement in, but if you're like most people, you're probably only hitting 3,000 to 5,000 steps per day. Now, how do I know this? Well, because that's the average in the UK and the US right now. I know, pretty damn embarrassing, but that's actually a good thing, because it means you have a big opportunity to increase it and see the results that you want. Then what you want to do is track your steps for the next week and just try to beat your previous target. Now, the goal here isn't to suddenly jump up from 5 to 10 or even 15,000 steps overnight. That's a mistake. Instead, you want to set yourself a realistic target. So if you've been averaging 5,000 steps a day, let's say, just aim to get an extra 2,000. That's about an extra 20 minutes of walking per day, which you can easily fit in with some small changes if you are serious about losing this belly fat. You don't need to carve out a dedicated hour, just break it up. Short, manageable chunks is absolutely fine. In fact, a really good way to do this is a 10-minute walk after each meal, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, parking further away from where you're trying to get to, even pacing around the room while you're on a phone call. One thing I've always done is walk to my gym rather than drive. And now, I know this is going to be particularly alien for you guys watching in the US, but honestly, this one habit can change the entire trajectory of your life. So for me, that's 20 minutes there and 20 minutes back. So without even trying, I'm hitting 6, maybe even 7,000 steps a day. And if weekdays are tough, you can balance it out by getting more steps on the weekends. Take your kids to the park or just walk around listening to a podcast so that you can relax and reset. A little bit like your calories, you don't need to hit the same target every single day. You can zoom out and look at it like a weekly budget. So rather than trying to hit 2,000 calories a day and 8,000 steps like a robot, zoom out and set yourself a weekly calorie budget of 14,000 and a step target of 64,000. You see, the key is to make it fit into your lifestyle so you don't even really have to think about it. Anyway, I really hope you found this video useful. Listen, I know the idea of getting rid of the belly fat can feel incredibly daunting. I've been there myself, but I promise you, if you follow the simple advice that we've talked about today, you're going to be on the right path and you're going to be amazed at just how quick you start to see results. And if you want to find out how my coaching program can help you get better results faster, go ahead and click the second link in the description that's underneath this video and book a completely free call with me so that we can discuss your goals and see if you'd be a good fit for it. And until next time, cheers.